Hey guys, we realized after filming this that we had some major audio problems, so apologies in advance for any wonky audio. We didn't know until it was too late, and it was impossible to recreate that passion and fervor.
Yeah, spoiler alert, we really go at each other.
Yeah.
I do like that we're talking to you from the future.
Yes.
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 Ooh.
Lottery numbers.
Now watch the debate.
Ooh, me. I'm going Dutch. Schwarzenegger from Predator.
Nice.
Predator is a fine film.
I'm going to pick what I thought you were going to pick.
Which is
Bond.
James Bond.
That's what I thought it was going to be too.
Oh, yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's time for another round of Action Wars. Today I'm whoopieing for Clint's Barbara Walters because he's debating.
Yes.
He, of course, is defending Dutch from Predator, and Cruz has James Bond. That's how it goes, right? I've seen one of them.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not. No.
Close enough. And since Cruz typically has to go first and complains about it, Clint, you're going first because I'm feeling very charitable today.
That's crazy. It is earlier.
I like it.
Usual format, 2 minutes for opening arguments, followed by 1 minute of rebuttals, and then untimed freeform until I get tired of listening to y'all.
Yay.
Clint, begin.
So here's a great thing about Major Alan Dutch Schaefer. He's a pile of muscles that shoots big guns and kills things. That's it. That is the perfect action hero in the purest sense. Dutch is the result of both Schwarzenegger and the director John McTiernan working at the top of their games. Dutch is such a simple machine. He's everything an action hero needs to be and not a thing more. He commands a group of badasses who are super badass in their own right, but clearly inferior to Dutch. He's smart enough to know he shouldn't trust Dylan. He's the only one that survives the whole Predator fiasco anyway. He uses a combination of wit and his impressive physique to defeat the Predator. He carries, like, the biggest knife. The man is a big-time action hero. He is the definition of an action hero, I would say. Now, Bond, I would say that Bond has clearly defined the spy genre, right? But I wouldn't go so far as to say that Bond is the biggest action hero of all time. And that's because Bond is largely a reactionary franchise in action cinema, right?
Okay.
When the Bond franchise, what they do historically is they chase trends, right? Whatever happens to be popular in movies is what they do next. The best example of this is at the end of, in the late 70s, at the end of The Spy Who Loved Me, you know, they have a title card up at the end, James Bond will return in, at the end of this movie they said, James Bond will return in For Your Eyes Only. But then Star Wars came out, so they made Moonraker instead. They did Live and Let Die in the early 70s because blaxploitation movies were big. Bullet and Steve McQueen got huge in the late 60s, so On Her Majesty's Secret Service was a little smaller, a little grittier to match that. You'll also notice that Daniel Craig is the first Bond to get absolutely ripped, and that's because you can't be an action hero without being absolutely ripped, which was a trend started by characters like Dutch from Predator.
2 minutes. Ready?
Yeah.
Begin.
So, while James Bond is arguably a reactionary trend, or the films are reactionary trends, I think that where James Bond started as a series of spy movies, he's become a really versatile versatile? He's become a really versatile character. I don't need another synonym for versatile. Across the 23, now 24 movies that he has been a part of. Because, yes, while Dutch is like the quintessential sort of meathead action hero in terms of his big guns and his big knife, James Bond has been allowed to become that with Daniel Craig, but also has a variety of other very cool action things. He has the hand-to-hand combat skills. He has the knife wielding skills, even though his knife is not as big. He has the resourcefulness of being able to use his environment that Dutch has. But on top of that, he's also a sharpshooter. He's also like a race car driver. He's also a master of gadgets. He's also suave and smooth. He is the action hero that you want to be, as opposed to the action hero that you're kind of scared of because he dunked your head in the toilet in high school. And he can use the weight of the organization behind him or not. I think that James Bond is sort of the epitome of every action hero at any given time, and therefore he is the best.
Look, I love James Bond. I really do. Read all the books, seen all the movies. Bond is culturally fascinating for a lot of reasons. A lot of those reasons that you just said. He's suave, he's charming, he gets laid like constantly. It's the tuxedo, it's the theme song, it's what car is he driving, what watch is he wearing, what product placement is going to be in this movie. It's all of those things, the title sequence, all of that stuff is what makes Bond culturally really relevant and fascinating. But that's in addition to the fact that he's an action hero. The mistake would be thinking that all of that stuff is him building upon an action hero. But really what it is when you look at like the cultural significance of James Bond, the fact that he's an action hero is at most equal to all of those other things. The mistake would be thinking that all of those other things build upon his action hero status.
15 seconds.
And also, talking about how he's been able to change or whatever, that really what you're saying is that he's so malleable and so indefined in and of himself that he can adjust to fit whatever trends are going on. And that, I think, is an admission of him not being the greatest action hero.
Time.
Okay. I would say that there's a fallacy in your argument in the idea that there's an exclusivity to the reasons for why his character has been built upon and changed, and that it has. I mean, ultimately, it doesn't matter that the reason that he has become both a race car driver and a sharpshooter and a big muscly guy is because they're reacting to trends. Sure, that's the reason why his character has been able to move in those directions, but the fact is, at the end of the day, that the movies that we have, the character that we have, is that versatile character and is able to embody all of the different kinds of action heroes that we've had over time. He represents the entire spectrum, where Dutch represents one corner of the spectrum. And therefore, I think he's a limited representation of all of how cool action can be.
The point that I'm trying to make about how he chases trends instead of creating. He goes with the flow of what action is happening anyway. And you talk about like adding to the character and everything that's happened recently with Daniel Craig. Casino Royale came out in 2006, right? It was a sort of grittier reboot of the franchise after Pierce Brosnan's Die Another Day. His last outing was like this effects heavy like monstrosity of a Bond movie, right?
Sure, but
listen. It came 5 or 6 years after that, and Casino Royale came out in 2006. In 2005, Batman Begins came out and was super successful because it was a grittier, more realistic reboot of a character that had already been well established after Batman and Robin had ruined the franchise with like this giant effects heavy bullshit. So Bond as a character is just a vessel for whatever happens to be popular in the movies. Now look, again, I love Bond, love me some Bond, but it's not because of the action. It's because all of the other stuff.
Yeah, but that's first of all, that's why you love Bond, and that's great. But I also don't think that reactionariness that you're trying to use as a negative is a negative, because what that allows is for a character who, yes, right before that was fighting giant space lasers while driving a car super well, which sounds like awesome, crazy action to me. And if you're really into that kind of action, Bond can deliver that for you, and that Brosnan movie is going to be there for you to watch. Get your Batman and Robin style hijinks on.
No, I don't think it's a negative thing that he is. I'm not trying to say he's a negative, because again, I love all the Bond movies. What I'm saying is it doesn't make him a great action hero. It makes him this vessel for the things that other great action heroes have done. Other great action heroes have set the tone for what action is right now in the moment, and Bond just copies it.
But he delivers it well.
He delivers it, sure, but he's not the trendsetter. He's not the originator of the action.
But you don't need to be a trendsetter to be awesome.
But here's the thing. I think Dutch is a trendsetter. Like, Dutch came out, it's like the one man against an unstoppable force that became like the biggest trend in action movies for the rest of that decade, right?
I would not say that Predator was the start of it.
Predator was the beginnings of it. Because McTiernan did Die Hard the next year.
Sure, but Arnold Schwarzenegger by the point in time he did Predator had already done a series of action movies. Arnold Schwarzenegger had established that character and that like big muscly like action hero archetype before.
If you're looking at like Commando or Raw Deal or some of those, like you're looking at a bunch of movies where he is just this mindless pack of like pile of muscles, like with nothing else to offer. But in Predator, he's an actual character. Dutch. Oh, no, don't do that. Don't give me that, because you told me before we started this you haven't seen Predator in a long time.
But
so
I've
don't,
seen it.
Yeah, but Dutch, having watched it literally just last night, Dutch is a smart guy. He's
Who gets
smart.
his entire team killed.
No, he does not get his entire team killed.
They all die.
He goes in to ostensibly at the start of the movie, he goes in to complete a mission that Dylan, Carl Weathers' character, sends him on. That mission is bullshit, and it's a trap. He gets all of his men alive out of that mission. That is the mission. That is why they go into the jungle. He gets his men out of it, and then he calls Dylan on his bullshit, right? He's smart enough to figure out what's really happening because you cooked up a story and threw us into the meat grinder. Like, he's smart enough to figure out what's going on and who he can and cannot trust. And then it's time to get all his men out of there, and they book it, right? And it's when they book it that a f***ing alien trophy hunter shows up. He had no way of being prepared for that, right? But
true.
He is the one that survives. And he survives because of his wit and his utility. He makes jungle traps, like traps out of like sticks and shit. And he catches the predator actually twice with those jungle traps. So like, it's not just his pile of muscles that wins the day. It's his pile of muscles that makes him able to stand up to the predator and go toe to toe in a fist fight with him for a little bit. But then it's his wit and it's his ability to think on his feet that actually defeats the predator. And by the way, the other thing, just on a sheer awesome level, the shoulder cannon that the Predator has blows, 3 people in half? Just eviscerates them, right? Dutch gets shot with that same cannon, and it's like a flesh wound. He's like, ah! And then he's off and running. So physically, he's somehow made of steel, which is awesome.
He's the Terminator.
Yes.
Look, at the end of the day, I love Predator, and I love Dutch, and I think he's a great character. I just think that he is the representation of, like, a very specific time period in action movies. And James Bond, whether reactionary or not, is representative of, like, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. He's fought lasers. He's fought spy missions. He's fought ninjas. He's fought he's fought voodoo priests that blow people up into weird balloons.
No, he blew.
Oh, he blew.
Kanega was was the fake voodoo priest, but
he blows people up into weird flesh balloons.
But look, here's the thing.
Like,
here's the thing about the staying power of Bond. For the past 50 years, a huge chunk of that time, Bond has been pretty irrelevant. Like, there are lots and lots of bad James Bond movies. Let's take For Your Eyes Only in the late 70s, early 80s, all the way through. Like, Roger Moore petered out so spectacularly with his run at Bond that Sean Connery's even like, f it, I'll do another one, sure. And then they did Never Say Never Again, which wasn't an official Eon production James Bond movie, right?
Sure.
So nobody likes the Timothy Dalton movies, so that takes up the 80s.
Some people do.
I'll give you GoldenEye. Pierce Brosnan's first. GoldenEye is good, but I think largely that gets a lot of credibility because of the video game. The rest of Pierce Brosnan's movies were bad. And then Casino Royale is good. That is a 30-year chunk. Where Bond
first of all,
is just bad and irrelevant.
But also,
he's an old man chasing young women.
No. Some of those movies that you said are bad, I think are perfectly acceptable guilty pleasures.
Perfectly acceptable guilty pleasures does not a great action hero make. If you were a great action hero, there'd be no such thing as a guilty pleasure James Bond movie.
No, that's not true, because action movie, first of all, like, the majority of Dutch-like characters, and to some degree Predator in and of itself, because I actually think Predators with Adrian Brody, the like weird reboot, is better than the original Predator, and it's one of the better Predators in the world.
Right out of here.
The point is that like Predator and some of the James Bond movies and a lot of action movies in general that have like the quintessential action hero are cheesy to some extent. They're guilty pleasures to some extent. They're not the height of filmmaking. They're not.
I agree with you that, but Predator is not among those movies. Predator is a much, and I am a James Bond nut, right? Objectively, Predator is a much better movie than I would say half of James Bond movies.
Sure, but that's
the point I'm making.
A lot of the bad half are still fun action movies.
All right, I've heard enough. I don't know if you guys have heard enough, but I have. So
I
we're
could
gonna
keep
stop
going.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have 2 comments below this video from CineFix, official comments. One says, like this comment if you think Dutch wins, so hit the thumbs up on that one. The other one will say, like this comment if you think James Bond wins, hit the thumbs up if you think Cruz won. Make sure you guys check out the other 2 videos that are going up with this one. It's not just one this time because the entire office had leprosy last week, but everyone seems to have bounced back, so we're picking up the round that we weren't able to film last week. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to CineFix and make sure you get those votes in because otherwise it's a wash, isn't it?
Vote 'em up!